Ayubowan, Mayuliu good afternoon from Sri Lanka. You are warmly welcome to the seventh edition of the UCR Global Asia webinar series. Today, we excited to discuss on cultural tourism and community development. And that the cultural tourism is widely used for community development throughout the world. And there may be different kind of business models and also that different kind of tourism models or the community development models. Those are used in different part of the world for the community development as well. And we invited two experts from two parts of the world that we have Dr. Georgia Tacu from Romania, and also we do have Dr. Celestine Katongole from Uganda. That Dr. Georgia works for Romanian Academy of Romanian Academy, and also Dr. Celestine works for that the Makerere University Business School in Uganda. And first, I would like to invite Dr. Georgia Tacu to share her expertise on cultural tourism and community development.
Hello, everyone. I'm very glad to be here and to meet with you. I'm Georgia Tacu, and I'd like to present to you today a paper of mine and one of my colleagues from the institute I'm working with. A paper that was published in 2021. And it dealt with urban cultural tourism in European context, economic context, the role of museums, theaters, public libraries, and cinemas. For what is worth about the link between our webinar theme and my paper is that we dealt with urban cultural tourism and its impact upon community development through economic growth. Our focus was on museums, theaters, cinemas, and public libraries. The period we covered was between 2000 and 2019. We intended to demonstrate the importance of cultural tourism for the urban economy. As a methodology, we employed multiple linear regression because we used 4 independent variables. So we needed this kind of regression. We used data from 3 sources because we couldn't find all the data from one single source, from Eurostat, World Bank, and World Tourism Organization. We employed as analysis tool Stata software. Now I will try a bit with the end of the paper because I'd like to make you pay attention to our limitations from the very beginning. Our limitations was given by 3 factors. Poor statistical data, because we found incomplete or even non-existent data. And because of that, we had to exclude from our analysis a number of European states. Also, another kind of limitation is that our analysis was empirical. If our analysis would have been theoretical, qualitative, like some studies, maybe we have reached different conclusions. And the third limitation is that for future research, additional variables could and should be considered. Now, for the motivations, why we choose museums, theaters, public libraries, and cinema attendance. Starting with the museums, of course, they have always been closely connected to tourism, and they are considered, and they are indeed are high interest cultural attractions. Moreover, in Europe, they are among the most visited tourist attractions, and they are one of the most important economic assets. Of course, they provide authenticity, disseminate values, contribute to economic regeneration, leave their mark on leisure, tourism, education, and personal development. As for the theaters, they, exactly like museums, they are instruments for the expression and the conservation of a society. They are both entertaining and educational. They strengthen the destination's cultural brand and play a significant role in experiential tourism because they create unique and memorable experiences. Public libraries are an educational factor and a cultural promoter at the same time. They attract tourists in both ways. For their books, old or limited edition books, and also for the events they organize. For example, the most usual events are exhibitions, concerts, and conferences. With cinemas, we took into consideration the phenomenon called film-induced tourism. The phenomenon where people visit locations that are featured in movies, TV shows, or other filmed productions. These are the motives for which we chose these kinds of cultural, tourist cultural attractions. Now we created 4 hypotheses. The first one was that museums and theaters influence the growth of tourist sector. The second hypothesis, museums and theaters influence economic growth. The third hypothesis, public libraries and cinemas influence the growth of the tourist sector. And the fourth hypothesis was that public libraries and cinemas influence economic growth. We created 2 models. The first model deals with the influence of urban cultural tourism, that is museums, theaters, cinemas, and public libraries, on the growth of European tourist industry. We were interested in the relationship between the tourist real GDP per capita, which was our dependent variable, and the number of museums, theaters, public libraries, and the cinema attendance. That is the number of movie-goers, because we didn't have the number of the cinemas available. So we had to use the number of the moviegoers. These 4 were independent variables, and they were considered in the major European cities. We took into consideration only 14 countries because of the lack of data: Croatia, Denmark, Estonia, Finland, France, Germany, Greece, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, Romania, Slovakia, Slovenia, and Sweden. The only criteria for excluding the others was the lack of data. Now, the second model dealt with the influence of urban cultural tourism on the growth of European economy. And it was about the relationship between the real GDP per capita and the number of museums, theaters, public libraries, and the cinema attendance in the major European cities. We took into analysis 18 countries: Belgium, Bulgaria, Croatia, Denmark, Estonia, Finland, France, Germany, Greece, Hungary, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, Romania, Slovakia, Slovenia, Spain, and Sweden. More than in the first model, because we did find more data. We created 2 equations describing the models. And you can see the meaning of each abbreviations. And after the modeling, these are the regression equations. Now let's see what this means. This means that in the first model, there is a direct relationship between tourist real GDP and the number of museums and theaters in European major cities. There is instead a negative relationship between tourist real GDP and number of public libraries and cinema attendance in the European major cities, even strongly negative for the cinema attendance. Most influential variables we found to be museums and theaters. Model 1 validated hypothesis 1, that is, that museums and theaters do influence the growth of the tourist sector. Instead, hypothesis 3 was invalidated. That is, public libraries and cinemas do not influence the growth of the tourist sector. In model 2, there was a direct relationship between real GDP and the number of museums and theaters in European major cities, and also a negative relationship between real GDP and the number of public libraries and cinema attendance in European major cities. Highest negative influence was in the case of the cinema attendance. The same, most influence variables were museums and theaters. Hypothesis 2 was validated, that is, museums and theaters influence economic growth, and hypothesis 4 was invalidated, that is, public libraries and cinemas do not influence economic growth. That is to say that model 2 validates model 1. Now, the conclusions, the most important conclusions was the 5 of them. Both models show that cultural tourism in major European cities has a positive economic role, both for the development of tourist sector and for economic growth. The highest degree of influence was from the part of museums and theaters. There is a negative relationship between tourist growth and public libraries, and almost neutral relationship between economic growth and public libraries. There is also a negative relationship between tourist growth and cinema attendance, and also negative relationship between economic growth and cinema attendance. And the last conclusion was the development of urban tourism has direct, indirect, and induced economic and social effects. I invite you to read the paper if you would like to do that. It was published in the proceedings of the 3rd International Conference on Decision-Making for Small and Medium-Sized Enterprises, DEMSE 2021. Thank you very much for your attention.
Okay, thank you. Thanks a lot, Dr. Chotia, for sharing your research findings. You have done your research covering a vast area that the number of European countries, and basically it is about that the development of the basically to identify the situation and the relationship between the tourism of the certain classical attractions in number of European countries. That is very interesting. And if there are any questions, we will got the questions at the last session after Dr. Celestine's speech.
Yes.
Now I would like to invite Dr. Celestine Katongole to start his speech.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Good morning, good afternoon, colleagues who are logged into this discussion. I'm happy to be here to be sharing with you our experience and what we are doing here in the area of culture, tourism, and community development. I see a lot of colleagues from my university. Some are my students, some are workmates, some are people from within the tourism industry. Thank you for joining in. We never take this for granted. And thank you, University College of me to say something to this important audience. And finally, I would like to thank I've picked a lot of lessons, and I look forward to reading the full paper later on. For me, I was invited to speak on culture, tourism, and community development, coming from Uganda. Uganda is found somewhere in Africa, specifically in East Africa. And in Uganda, I work with the Makerere University Business School. This is a college of Makerere University, which is Uganda's oldest university. It's been around since 1923. Very old in Uganda, but I think globally it could be amongst the new ones, you know, on the scene. For some colleagues that may not know much about Uganda, I'll share that Uganda is a country that whose tourism relies entirely or largely on nature-based resources or assets. And when I talk about this, I'm talking of about 10% of the country's area allocated to wildlife protected areas. And this is close to 24,000 square kilometers of land. And this land, as you can see, has lions, has elephants, has chimpanzees, has gorillas, has we have all things, and this being the equator, which is as a tropical country and fair country, Uganda has ice. And so, as you can see one of the pictures here, so when you come to Uganda, but if you climb higher, also see a bit of and when we come to cultural tourism, make sure that all of understand issues same. This is Dr. Tai. People go around the world, go different places, they dance, they play music, they participate in the festivals, they engage in the passage of rite ceremonies like circumcisions, like celebrating births or deaths, or a lot of things. They explore museums, monuments, they attend, they taste local food, they learn how to cook it, they engage in a lot of learning experiences. Some do weaving, some do pottery, some do language classes. They do a lot of things. And in this picture that you see here, top of my screen, the one of cows, these are cows which are fairly localized in Uganda, who have their fairly culture, very, very deeply culture. You realize that people come here to learn how to graze these cows, how to milk, how to extract different milk products, and all of this is done culturally. So when you talk about culture tourism, really, it's very different from nature-based tourism. It's about traveling to really see and learn and participate and enjoy how other people outside of your community actually live their lives. And when you look at Africa, Africa is diverse as a continent. We have close to 3,000 tribes, and each of these tribes has their ways of life, the food they eat, the drinks they have, the dances, the music, the dress code, you know. As you can see, you know, the color that is here, it's very different. These pictures are simply a snapshot of what we have from across Africa. And when I say cultural tourism is beautiful, this is what I mean. All over the world, I wish we had a semblance, we had a platform where the entire world would come together to demonstrate their culture. I think the diversity there would be very, very beautiful. If we look at a global picture, again, you realize that culture tourism is very, very powerful. It is very strong. Results indicate that it's very many times bigger than wildlife tourism, which is the biggest product that we have in Africa. I think in Africa, 80% of our revenue comes from nature-based tourism. But you can see, if you look at a global picture, culture tourism is really big, and it contributes quite strongly to the global economy. And again, you can see that all source markets, 40% of all European tourists, for instance, are looking for culture, and they spend quite more on culture. They stay quite longer in places that offer more to learn, because these visitors are looking for opportunities to see, to learn, and to experience things which are new, which are unique, which are authentic. And I think when you look at this, you realize that even if doctor's presentation tells you that theaters, her findings will definitely tell you that what people are looking for is what allows them to spend and contribute to the local economies, to economic growth, and even tourism development. Again, as you can see, the top 5 sources of cultural tourists in Europe, just within Europe, you can see almost everybody is looking to experience something that is new, something that is different. And all of this simply means that countries like Sri Lanka that are culturally rich, countries like Uganda or everywhere in Africa who have so many opportunities. The market is there, the demand is there. All we need to do is to simply package and learn how to present this so that the world can enjoy what we offer. Now, the question that we have today to answer is, can cultural tourism support community development? Yes, the answer is big. It's a big yes. It can support, it can engender community development in so many ways. It can improve livelihoods of people. They can earn income, they get jobs, they can protect their resources, both natural and cultural. The local governments can earn money through taxes and fees that they levy at different points of the value chain of tourism. It enhances social harmony and social capital. It supports inclusion of the marginalized people, those that are not part of the urban system, those that are not part of the economic system. Cultural tourism can bring them closer. And of course, it fosters mutual respect and understanding between different cultures. And this is where the idea of peaceful coexistence as humans comes from. Because when we travel and learn about others, we appreciate the diversity, we appreciate the differences, and again, together, we're able to enjoy the space that we have. Now, I have this picture here. You may be wondering why I have a picture of a house. This picture is of a person that has participated in cultural tourism from the very beginning of his life, and was able to buy land and build for himself a very beautiful house somewhere in the village. You may not think this is in a rural setting in somewhere in Uganda, but it happens. So it simply demonstrates that there is a very big opportunity to use cultural tourism to support community development. Now, I've brought for you a case study, a community that I've been a part of for the last 10 to 11 years. We started it, we supported it to use cultural tourism to help this community get out of poverty, get out of the problems, the development issues that they had. And this community, we call it Entanda Community Tourism Initiative. It is found somewhere in Uganda, not very far from the capital city, Kampala. And our motivation was at several levels. First and foremost, we noticed that a lot of international tourists were coming into the country, and their focus was mostly on wildlife and nature-based tourism. And in that process, they missed meeting Ugandans, because where these national parks are, where these animals are, these are remote areas, these are wildlife areas. So they would come, enjoy the game, enjoy the rides on the water bodies, they enjoy all of these things. But sadly, they would go back home without actually meeting and participating and learning about how Ugandans live and their beautiful culture. But also, these tourists have been traveling long distances without stopovers to relax and refresh. Many of our people also were born in rural areas. They have gone to urban areas to work. And while in urban areas, they have found new jobs, they have found families, they have brought up new children, you know, but in the end, this new generation doesn't know a lot about rural life. So we noticed that actually there were a lot of opportunities for a community to organize itself, to organize the way they live, and offer this to both domestic and international tourists to the country. And while all of this was happening, in the rural areas, people are excluded from tourism, poverty is quite a lot, and yet these people have a lot of resources around them. Now, so in 2013, we begin Ntanda as an ecocultural destination. What I mean by ecoculture, we use both culture and ecological practices, those which are traditional in nature, to package that and offer it to visitors, both the international visitors and the domestic visitors. And of course, the word Ntanda simply means a package that you offer to somebody that you love. So for us, everybody that comes to us, everybody that visits us, we want to share something that is beautiful to them, something that they can go with to their lives. Now, when they are with us, they experience the full warmth and hospitality of the Ugandan people in a non-staged setting. Now, we emphasize non-staged because we want people to be as natural, to be as social, to be as normal as possible, because staging, again, takes away the idea of authenticity. Now, we do a lot of activities. As you can see, our visitors, when they come, we serve them with a cocktail of fresh fruits. And all these fruits are grown into these communities where the initiative is. People go to their gardens, we give them seedlings, they plant, they enjoy. And when visitors come, they also have an opportunity to share, to eat, and you know. Then we do traditional cooking classes. Visitors come, we harvest food together, we peel it together, we prepare it together. And at the end of the day, we even eat the food together. And when we are eating the food together, I mean, we eat traditionally. We do not use modern tools or modern facilities or modern instruments to eat. We go back to the tradition. And when we are doing this, we make sure that we teach our visitors the values that we have inherited from our forefathers. And here, again, the harvesting, as you can see, these are bananas. In Uganda, we eat a lot of bananas. It is one of the staple foods for one part of the country. So we eat a lot of bananas. We harvest, and as you can see here, our visitors, we do garden tours. And in these gardens, visitors get to see exactly what we grow, how we grow it. We have herbs in our gardens. There's a lot of medicine. It is very common for people to fall sick in our community and only treat themselves using herbs that they generally grow in their gardens. We do backcloth making. Backcloth, like how you see, this is the backcloth here. This is a cloth that Ugandans invented some hundreds of years ago, long before modern clothing came. So we teach people how this is done, and we still wear these clothes. Of course, the number is limited. There are few people that wear, but it is very cultural. It is very respectful. And when people come, we're able to share some of these things. Of course, we do the music, the dance, the drama, you know, that is traditional. We have strong men, we have strong women that can dance, that can play the instruments. We plant trees because we have a lot of fruits. We need to take care of our environment. So when visitors come into our community, we plant trees together and we commit to look after these trees on behalf of the visitors. By the time they go back, they are very sure the trees will be looked after. Of course, we also do, as part of ecological practices, we rear bees. And then we have B experiences, appear experiences with our visitors. We go together and teach them a lot of things. And that activity ends with the tasting of the honey. So people enjoy some of our honey. We do traditional hunting. We go into our forests, we go into our hills, we go into our wetlands, together with the visitors. We hunt, but we do not kill. We hunt, catch, and release back to the wild. We do cycling, we do camping, we do traditional talks, we play, there's quite a lot of stuff that we deliver to our visitors. Now, over the years, over the last 10 years, the key question we have today here is, does cultural tourism really support community development? Personally, I've watched it over the years in this community. I've seen the transition of people from grass-thatched houses to modern houses. I've seen people educating children from primary school or from the lowest level up to university. I have seen people that eat better, that have assets in their homes. I've seen people that are actually looking much better. How? Because they have participated in the community activities, they have participated in cultural tourism, and the income they get, the social capital they get, the knowledge they get, and the skills they get, they go and apply in their homes, and in the end, they're able to become better. So I have noticed over the years that the members have increased income directly and indirectly from the community. There is improvement in social infrastructure. We now have a school, we have water, we have a community road. All of these things were never there before, but they are there in the community. We have people now do business on their own. Everything they do is not entirely for the group, for the tourism group, but they do a lot of things which they eventually share with the markets outside, and they're able to make money from this. Of course, social capital and social cohesion and social harmony, diversification of livelihoods. Now our groups, the dancing group, for instance, performs at different functions, weddings, political functions. They're invited to go and perform, and they make people very happy, but in the process, we also make money. Funerals, our group, the department in charge of cooking, they now cook food at funerals and serve people very delicious food, and all of that is income that comes into the community. Therefore, I can see and I can say with the confidence, with the evidence over the years that I've participated in this community, that actually it is possible to achieve community development using cultural tourism as an instrument. Finally, since I've been a part of this, I would like to share just a few lessons that I've learned. Maybe one person here or a few people here in Sri Lanka. I have read about you. You have a lot of tourism. It is vibrant, and there are strong opportunities for developing cultural tourism and community tourism within your country. One, I have observed that positive change is a personal choice. You can go and teach people, you can go and deliver your cultural tourism into a community, bring your ideas, but I can tell you, for anybody to change, for anybody to see things positively, it's a choice they have to make. And to achieve that choice, you must be able to get to the bottom of the causes of problems, to the root of the issues that explain why people are poor, why they're in the state they are in. Once you tackle problems at that point, you'll be able to achieve positive change. Then I have also learned that you can never rush a community into development. You can't. You need to take time. You need to play along. You do not have to change the way they live. You need to play along with their lifestyle and metamorphose and change from within inside. That way, you are able to create change that everybody will embrace. And then you need to use resources that are available. You don't need to look elsewhere. Study the community, look at the culture they have, look at the traditions they have. You can start with that, build on that, find a strength, and then develop packages and offer to visitors. And then benefits should never take long to come. The moment you engage people, you train them, you teach them, you mobilize them, they form a group, please make sure that results don't take long to come. Otherwise, if people wait for too long to receive visitors, to earn income, to get the jobs, they'll lose interest, they'll lose morale, and they'll go back to their other activities. That is very, very important. And that also feeds into this other idea that a one-off training can never change a community. You don't go in and do a workshop of 1 to 3 days and walk away. That can never change people. What changes people is, yes, that training is enough, is good, but continuously be with them, continuously guide them, coach them, handhold them. That way, they're able to learn, they're able to trust you, they're able to do a lot of things. And trust and transparency are both built and observed. Do not expect people to trust you because you're a professor from a university, because you have a diploma, because you have a degree. No, you have to demonstrate that you can be trusted. So ideally, to work with the communities, you need to be trustworthy, you need to be transparent, and to achieve that, you need to live it. And finally, market linkages are game changers. We can talk about all of these things, but for as long as the community does not have access to markets, does not have access to tour operators, does not have access to lodges and hotels that can give them clients, my friend, you are dreaming. So it's very important that while you build the capacity, while you put together the packages, you also create market linkages so that these people can be able to access markets. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much, Dr. Celestine, for your very insightful speech, and also that the lots of other developing countries can learn a lot from the Ugandan lessons of the community development through cultural tourism. That is a very, very interesting story, and that I think that it looks from the nice photographs that the tourists are enjoying it, and also that they get some kind of immersive experience. That is very fun, immersive and kind of a authentic experience that is not especially developed for the tourism. Maybe something beyond that is stage authenticity. That's not especially developed for tourists. There may be some products, but that I saw lots of your photographs that the certain things, the actual thing what you have at the moment is developed as tourism products, tourism experience for the tourists. That is very interesting. And now that I like to move to the question and discussion session, that if you have any question, you can use the raise hand option and we will allow you to ask the question, or that your views and ideas are welcome as well. And or otherwise that you can use the chat box to ask the questions as well. And Dr. Georgia and the Dr. Celestine, we already have received some questions from our registrants. That the one question I got, how can ensure active participation and inclusion of local communities? I think that the question is basically about what kind of approaches you can use. So you may get some idea during the presentations as well, that how can ensure the active participation and inclusion of local communities in cultural tourism. That is very interesting, and that we got some ideas from the presentations as well. That I do like to ask something how it is done in the Romania, or that the Eastern Europe from Dr. Georgia.
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yeah. Dr. Georgia, the question is that how you can ensure the active participation and the inclusion of local communities in cultural tourism.
Oh, yeah. For example, in my city, in Iași, city is a student city, is a university city. We have indeed foreign tourists, and the people are used, but not so much to get involved in cultural tourism. The authorities are working on a project in this moment, in this way, in this direction, because no, I don't, I couldn't say we have the habitude to get involved as persons in cultural tours and to take part, develop projects. We need to be learned how to do that. in this moment in Romania. That is the truth.
Okay.
And yeah.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Dr. Georgia. Dr. Celestine, can you add something? I know that you have a lot of things.
Thank you. Dr. Georgia, we are available to share some lessons to,
Yeah.
to the colleagues in Armenia to be able to learn a bit of how community tourism can actually be developed. I think over the years, one thing that I have seen is that to be able to ensure full participation and inclusion of communities, first and foremost, the community must be at the forefront of everything that they do. So that means you as the leader, you as the initiator of the idea, you need to be able to consult and involve them. Let them make decisions. Let them implement the decisions. Guide, just be available to guide. And as you guide, they implement. Sometimes you allow them to make mistakes. Let them make mistakes, sit together, learn with them, share with them. That is very, very, very important. And of course, the other thing which is very, very important is the leadership. Ensure that they always have leaders. The community must have leaders. I mean, leaders of the initiative, not the political leaders of a village, of a society. I mean, the leaders of the initiatives. Ensure that these leaders have a common goal, have a common objective, have a common vision, and ensure that they hold meetings, ensure that these leaders engage their members, ensure that also these leaders actually change. Somebody doesn't have to be a leader for too long. Have some kind of rules that govern you. And the moment you do that, it is going to be very, very, very possible to ensure inclusion. There is a point I did not explain under the lessons that we have learned. I didn't explain it, but maybe I can share it now. Usually, what I have learned is that the people you begin with are not the people you end up with. The people that actually commit to community initiatives are the ones who first watch from the sidelines. They watch you, they try to observe your actions, your behavior, your words, and from that observation, once they are convinced that you have good intentions, they are going to sign up to join the initiative. And once they join, those are the guys that are going to hold things together. Usually, the first people to enter, they enter quickly, very fast, hoping to get quick results, quick benefits. But if the benefits take long to come, or if there's a lot of hard work to do, usually they run away. But as they run, the observers enter, and these are the ones that are going to hold the association, the initiative together, and they're the ones that are going to take it forward. And that way, inclusion can happen. And of course, maybe the last point is you need to advocate. You need to walk into offices of influential people. What I mean by offices of influential people, a community normally is a bit excluded. They live alone in their own life. Maybe they are farmers, they are peasants, they could be fishermen. They are not connected to the rest of the world. So they do not have the knowledge, they do not have the skills, they do not even have the art of engaging with everybody else. Now, when you come with the idea, make sure you serve as a bridge between the community and those people in offices. Offices could be the local leaders, offices could be the district leaders, offices could be the National Tourism Board, the ministry. Make sure you are the one who goes and talks on behalf of this community. Keep introducing them slowly. And that way, once they learn how things work, you will ensure, or you'll have done your part as far as linking them and ensuring inclusion of the community is towards the tourism system. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Celestine. And also that another thing is there when you look at that the non-tourism perspective, and when it comes to communities may have other options that the tourism may not be the only option available for them for the development. that may be the case in Romania in certain areas, at least. I don't know that they may have that some other the economic opportunities. Because of that, they may have less focus on tourism because that they do have some other better options in the context of Romania, at least certain parts. So, what is the situation, Georgia?
Some authorities are interested and proactive. Some authorities are not. And if the common people in a city see that the authorities are not interested, the common people lose their interest.
Okay.
So they are waiting for the action to take place from the top level to the low level, not vice versa. It's
Okay.
usually like that.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Then that we have a question in the chat box that is to Dr. Georgia, that from one of our students, that how can these institutions, it means that the public libraries, cinema, collaborate to create unified cultural tourism packages. That packages may help to maximize the economic benefits for urban areas. That is basically about that the urban cultural tourism, what it's for. Yes, Dr. Georgia?
Yeah, I think that museums, theaters, and public libraries are in itself touristic attractions. For theaters and museums, it's much easier because they have a treasure in themselves. For public libraries, they are also treasuring books, that is knowledge, but they can also organize various events, cultural events, big events, and public libraries can become very frequented tourist attractions. With cinemas, the things are a little bit different because cinemas attract only the tourists interested in film-induced tourists. You don't go to a movie. You don't go to another country just to go to the movie. A movie. However, the good that movie could be. So cinemas are related to film industries. So they are not so powerful instruments in growing tourism and growing economic development. However, museums and theaters are on the first place, and they do influence, they do impact positively. And also public libraries, but not at the same level.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Georgia. That I have read that in some European countries that literary tourism is there as a separate subset of cultural tourism. That may be very interesting, and also that in Sri Lanka that there is a kind of a festival called that the Ball Literary Festival that attract not very large number of tourists, that some considerable number of tourists from foreign countries who have that special interest. It's kind of a special, very narrow market. Okay, that we have more questions that the audience is very interested, and the another question is there, that is how cultural norms of a particular society affect on participation of the local community or the locals in cultural tourism. Dr. Celestine, is there any kind of barriers, especially for the women to enter the tourism sector because of the cultural norms or not?
Yes, it is true. There are, of course, culture in a way creates certain biases in society, and these biases come in the form of how culture allocates duties and responsibility to women and men. So there are certain activities that men can do, and there are certain activities that women cannot do. For instance, there is a culture in Uganda where I come from, northeast of the country, women cannot operate an entertainment place. They can't operate bars because if you operate a bar and you are selling alcohol as a woman, that is associated with the prostitution. So even when there are tourists everywhere looking for places to dance from, looking for places to drink from, women cannot run such businesses. That is one. Two, I've talked about hunting, the hunting activity that we do. Women are not allowed to hunt. Only men can actually go hunting. So even when you are very good, you are an athlete, you have the knowledge, as a woman, you are expected to stay at home. Three, women are the ones who are allowed to cook. Traditionally, it is the women who cook. So even when we talk about traditional dining, we talk about traditional cooking classes, we are talking about food harvesting, that is exclusive work for women. Men were not allowed there. So you realize that it is possible that certain aspects of society can only be done by men and others can be done by women. But generally, overall, culture allocates women those responsibilities which are not economically viable, which are labor intensive, and which cannot earn them a lot of money. The big ones, which are lucrative, which can make money, which can make people advance economically, are reserved for men. So in that way, to be able to develop cultural tourism, we also need to be able to break cultural barriers, those that limit people from participating in certain activities. That is the only way we are going to achieve full inclusion. And I think at Entanda community, one of the ways we have done that was to ensure that women are part of management, women are part of the committee, and once they are there, they make decisions, and if their decision affects men, yes, men must accept. Because in the past, where we began from, certain women were not allowed to talk because they are wives of the members. So if I come with my wife and I talk, I have a certain argument, she cannot argue against me. If she does, I will shut her up in the meeting. Now, our rules have been streamlined. Such things can no longer be tolerated and allowed. And that is how women have also come into leadership. They're making decisions, they keep money, they allocate resources, and when they make their money, they are free to spend it the way they want. So it takes time, but it is doable. It is something that is achievable. Yes.
Okay, thank you. That according to your experience, that is clear that the cultural tourism not only thoughts into the development of the community development, but also that it has helped to empower women as well. That is interesting. That is interesting. What is the situation in the Romania, Dr. Georgia? That I don't think that the level of value we don't take there in Romania for the women especially.
In Romania, in the rural area, yes, there are certain kind of discriminations. And in towns and cities, the level of discrimination is much lower, much lower. But in rural areas, it's the same thing like Dr. Celestine told us about. Well, not just interdictions so harsh, so tough, like no cooking for men or no fishing for women or something like that. But yes, women must respect men, cannot contradict him. And there are indeed certain activities allotted to men and not women, and vice versa. But even in our rural areas, things are changing. It's indeed the pace is not the same as we would like to be, is slower, but things are changing.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Georgia. And the another question is there that what are the actions we can take to balance the best profit and the culture? I think it's about the balancing of the economy and the cultural preservation or something, to my understanding. Yes. Is there anything that how we can preserve the culture while that there may be a concern, may Dr. Celestine and Dr. Georgia, some situations, some cases are there that when the culture is used as a tourism product, there may be some kind of issues for the culture that there may be a trade for the authenticity, there may be the over
Yes.
commercialization, those kind of issues are there. That can you add something for this?
I think that first and foremost, we may not be able to preserve culture because by its nature, culture must change. Each generation has a way of life. Otherwise, if we preserve and keep things the way they were before, then we cannot change as society, we cannot advance. So we need to be able to allow adaptability. We need to be able to allow changing of culture as society evolves. But as we change, it is these generations that will decide what to keep and what to abandon, and maybe also decide what to improve. So generally, in my view, certain aspects maybe need to be, the key word should be conserve. We need to conserve some of these cultures, some of these traditions. Maybe the music, we can add just a bit, the food, we can add just a bit, to suit our needs. Otherwise, if people do not find culture relevant to them, they are going to abandon it. And if they abandon it, it's going to die. So they must find relevance in the culture. Now, if I look at where we've come from as a community, there are a few things that I've been able to observe as a person in this community. For instance, initially, when we cooked food in a pure traditional way, there were certain aspects of hygiene that people were not paying attention to. But then we emphasized that, you know, unless we work on those aspects, it is not going to be possible for visitors to appreciate how we cook traditionally. So the ladies that cook had to adjust the way they prepare food. It is traditional, but you must adjust and add in a few other elements that are going to make sure that the food that is served is cultural, rich, and also safe and healthy for the people to eat. So it's very, very important. Two, there are certain parts of culture that are there, but we're selfish in nature. For instance, in my part of where we come from, women traditionally were not allowed to eat chicken. Chicken was only eaten by men. Now, there is no justification. You mean a woman is going to cook a whole chicken only for the man to eat alone and maybe her sons and the daughters will not eat? No. So some of these things have to what? Have to change. So for me, the main action we need to do is to educate people, is to advocate for what we feel is best for community, and then have a common goal as a society, as a community, on where we want to go, how to get there, what we must preserve, and what we must abandon, so that we're able to live holistically as we move into the direction that we want as society. That's what I think.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Celestine. That is, I like to highlight that most important part of your answer. That is, the culture is always a changing entity. You need to understand that. That is very interesting. And I would like to move to the last question. I received the question from one of our registrants that Are there any specific policies or the frameworks to support cultural tourism development? What is the situation in that Romania? Are there any specific policies or frameworks to support cultural tourism development?
Yes, we adjusted our policies according to the European Union policies. So the framework does exist. However, our authorities are not, unfortunately, so interested and so aware of the economic and social benefit of tourism in general and of cultural tourism in particular. So they are not focusing on tourism. Even if the organizations, the community urge them to do that, because we common people are aware, perfectly aware that tourism is a resource, an economic and social resource. The authorities are not interested and are not focusing their policies and their efforts on tourism. But may I say something about the previous question?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, because Dr. Celestine said something very interesting and very true to Romania as well. Yes, we have to preserve, but to a certain point, we have to change mentalities. We have to preserve certain values, certain ways of life. For example, dances, costumes, habits, etc. But the mentalities have to change, to modernize, and to not to invalidate a certain system of values that is true and valuable even today, but to modernize in a way that discrimination must not take place anymore, and the roles men and women must be generalized in society, and both have to have the same roles, and to be seen as equal indeed.
Okay, thank you very much, Georgia. And now we are ready to conclude that this very important discussion. Before that, I would like to invite all of you to switch on your cameras to pose for a group photograph. During that, unfortunately that the Georgia, Dr. Georgia has a technical issue. However, that we can see her nice image. Photograph is there. That please switch on your cameras of the mobile phone or that computer. Pose for photograph. Yes, dear all participants, please switch on your cameras and pose for photograph. The group photo.
I like the idea of a group photo.
That's great. That's great.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Celestine and Dr. Georgia, to share your very valuable experience and insights with us at the UCR Global Asia webinar series. And thank a lot for all of you as participants from different countries. That I see that the Professor Suleiman is there from Turkey, and also that there are lots of participants from Kenya, and also there are someone from India, and there are people from Sri Lanka as well. And thank us a lot for all that. We will join again. Hope to join with you again at the next version of the UCR Global Asia webinar series. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr.
Thank you.
Celestine.
Thank you for the opportunity to meet you all. Thank you very much.